Hello and welcome our blood viewers to RTD's News English edition. Tonight for the highlights we got Civil Society Concentration Meeting, Commune of Balbala. And on the international scene in the Mediterranean, hundreds of refugees still waiting for a safe port to disembark. Those were the highlights, our beloved viewers. Welcome back to our newsroom. As part of efforts to promote a peace and social cohesion, the festivities room of the Al-Rahma complex in Balbala hosted this afternoon a consultation meeting held by the Council of Civil Society in partnership with the municipality of Balbala. The meeting took place in the presence of the Vice President of the Civil Society, Mr. Yusuf Hassan Nuhu, the President of the municipality of Balbala, the Deputy Abdul Isi, as well as of dozens of notables, women and youth from different neighborhoods of the municipality. During this meeting, the participants stressed the need to promote peace, the values of brotherhood and social coexistence. They also recalled the gravity of the events experienced by some neighborhoods, which have resulted in human and material losses. The speakers expressed their firm commitment to support the steps of the security forces to maintain order and security. They also took this opportunity to present their condolences to their families and wished a speedy recovery to those injured in these accidents. At the end of this consultation meeting, the participants agreed to form a committee of 50 members concerned with achieving national reconciliation in these neighborhoods. Moving on to the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development in collaboration with the International Maritime Organization, which is also known as IMO, and the Regional Organization for the Conservation of the Environment of the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden is organizing a national workshop on the implementation of Annex V and VI of the Marpol Convention at the People's Palace this morning, Monday, August 2nd, 2021. This workshop aims to strengthen national capacity, the concept of prevention of pollution from ships under the Annex 5 and 6 of the Marpol Convention in all its aspects. Annex 5 deals with the disposal of all garbage from ships and imposes a total ban on the discharge of plastics into the sea in any form. As for Annex 6, it concerns the rules for the prevention of air pollution from ships and came into force in 2025. This annex sets limits on emissions of sulfur oxides and other harmful emissions such as nitrogen oxides and particulate matter. The workshop was chaired by the Secretary General of the Minister, Mr. Dini Abdullah Umar, in the presence of Mr. Aden Hassan Ilmi, Technical Advisor to the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development, Mr. Idris Ma'al Noor, Acting Director of the Directorate of Environment and Sustainable Development, Dr. Muhammad Ahmed, Representative of the Regional Organization for the Conservation of Environment of the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The workshop was conducted by international consultants sent by PRESGA and national experts. In this regard, the Secretary General of the Ministry, Mr. Dini Abdullah, recalled that the sea is also a source of vital supplies of fisheries, mineral and fossil resources, and thus contributes significantly to food security and energy. The sea is a formidable regulator of climate and it shelters an important biodiversity. The port infrastructure of our country has all the necessary characteristics that allow it to attract international investors. This is at least the purpose of an international conference on infrastructure that will be held tomorrow in Djibouti Palace Kempiski for 2 days. Hundreds of experts from around the world began this morning a guided tour including the facilities of the SGTD, DMP, and DIFTZ. Thus, the delegation began their visit to the SGTD, where they were able to follow a presentation by the Director General of the SGTD, Mr. Abdullahi Adawe, on the container terminal of Dorale. From the quay to the railway service, Mr. Siyad accompanied the delegation of experts and investors. The DJ, Mr. Abdullahi, enlightened the delegation on the missions of the SGTD from the quay to the railway service. The director, Mr. Adawi, made it clear that DTED is the most modern and advanced container terminal in East Africa, a leader in regional trade and supply chain. The delegation then visited the DMP of the multipurpose port of Dorale, where the delegation was welcomed by Habon Abdurrahman Sher, their Deputy Commercial Chief, who provided them with potential of this multipurpose port. Flagship of the national economy, this port has all the characteristics to make Djibouti a logistics hub in the region. True flagship of the Djiboutian economy, the DMP docks several bulk carriers carrying seeds and fertilizers for Ethiopian farmers. To close the day, the delegation visited the new international free zone of Djibouti at the Djibouti International Tower, located at PK 23. and near the DIFTZ, where they could see the remarkable progress made in the development of ports and free zones. The visitors were impressed by the capacities of these infrastructures, which have made our country an essential regional hub in the world trade. This presentation, which was a real exhibition on the ambitions and the future that Djibouti has given, seduced the Australian magnate. No detail escaped him. Moving on to the Olympics, Djibouti's international athlete Ayanle Suleiman qualified for the semi-final of the 1,500 series in this morning events. The Djibouti international athlete Ayanle Suleiman has qualified a time of 3.37. The semi-final will be played on Thursday. Recall that Ayanle Suleiman did not participate in the event of 800 meters, so probably preferred the event of 1,500 meters. Moving on to the international scene, it was in this boat that several refugees were rescued on Saturday night during an operation that lasted 5 hours in total in one weekend. More than 800 people were rescued in the Mediterranean during rescues led by the Ocean Viking in the German organization Sea-Watch. But since then, and after each rescue, the NGOs have to wait for the allocation of a safe port by the maritime authorities to disembark. Blocked at sea sometimes for several days with more than 500 people on board one of the rescue ships, the situation is untenable. With the heat of sickness, some faint on deck. But while the authorities have been contacted, Tunisia and Libya has not responded, while Malta has given a negative response. Nearly a year after the devastating explosion in Beirut, some gray areas remain. While the tragedy of August 4, 2020 left more than 200 people dead and razed entire neighborhoods in the Lebanese capital, no one responsible has yet been brought to justice. The explosion was caused by more than 2,000 tons of ammonium nitrate abandoned in a port without precautionary measures. After rejecting an international investigation, the authorities dismissed the first judge in charge of investigating the case. His responsibility is also facing suspicions, including the refusal of Parliament to lift the immunity of some of its members suspected of involvement in this explosion. By this, our beloved viewers, we conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us and make sure to stay safe. Thank you very much.